right, live. Let's see if this thing is rocking and rolling. Do a quick refresh here. Live stream should be good to go. As you guys roll in, drop a line. All right, there we are. Booyah. Close this down. Go over to Twitter. Get everyone to join up. Terrific. What's up, guys? As we roll in, say what's going on. Got the chat box up today. Welcome. Happy Thursday, I guess it is. A very good day to be here. Good day to be in crypto. Got my whole live stream thing set up. Cool. So as you guys roll in, let me know where you're coming from. Let me know what kind of international or national crew we have. Always good to meet you guys and see what's going on. Still trying to get my bearings on the software, so I'm looking over at my other screen. That's why I may look over here every once in a while. But just say, introduce yourself. Let me know where you're coming in from. I'd love to, start connecting with you guys, hear more about it. We've got, oh my God, I can't even read this fast. We've got Ed from Italy, Grayson from Texas. What's up? Jonathan from Peru, Lima, Peru. Man, I heard Peru has the best food. I would love to do a surf trip down Peru and just eat bomb food all day. Argentina, Andreas. I did a month in Buenos Aires back in 2013. I hit a huge milestone in one of my companies and decided to just fly down, and my buddies showed up. It was great. So anyway, if you're new to the channel, hit the subscribe button. Make sure you do that. Hit the notification button. If you're a longtime viewer, hit that thumbs up button. I think that'll help the algorithm and everything else. Terrific. We got Massachusetts. I think I saw Ireland, South Africa. Jagger from South Africa. I was in Namibia. I ran a race in Johannesburg a couple of months ago, and I went to Namibia. I took a shot of video. I should post that sometime, but I loved it. It was a beautiful, beautiful place. But enough about me. Let's talk about crypto. Let's talk about what you guys are interested in. As you guys are rolling in, make sure you introduce yourselves. What we're going to do today is I'm going to walk through a little bit about just really what's happening in the world, what's happening in the crypto space. And I really just, if you have any questions, feel free to ask. I'll do my best to answer them. Try to keep it as interesting as you can, I should say, as opposed to hey, what do you think of? Do you think Bitcoin's going to go up or down? Whatever, I get it. But anyway, probably the most interesting news right now is I'm on the 4-hour right now on Coinbase because we're kind of a time sensitive. Look at that. Go live. Bitcoin gets a massive volume candle. I mean, come on, you can't make this stuff up. So Bitcoin is right around, I'm just going to scroll out so we can see the actual number. So at Coinbase, at least, we're looking at right around high 7,800s, maybe 7,900s. So that's really the limit. I mean, that's the double top, right? And if you break a double top, that's typically a good sign, loosely speaking, as I tend to do. So that's it. We're looking at what's interesting is that there's a massive price increase, but relatively speaking, the volume isn't overwhelmingly huge for that steep and that big of a price increase. So that means that there's just an enormous amount of buying activity and not as much sell activity. So for anybody who's ever looked at charts like this and you've thought to yourself, I don't really know what this all means. First of all, if you're on TradingView and you can make these charts different colors. I make them all the same color because otherwise it messes with my head a little bit to see buying and selling the way that Bittrex does, right? So if you open up something like Bittrex and you went to Zcash, for example, you know how we do that? You could see that the red and the green kind of associates buying and selling. I found that making them all one color helps you focus on just the sheer volume, and then you can look at price as it relates to volume. So that's just a good way, especially if you don't know much about technical analysis like myself, because it's just an easier way to do it. But with this kind of steep price increase, and the volume not being overwhelmingly huge to drive that price that fast, to me, that means that there's a lot more people buying right now than selling. Probably trying to break this limit. This is, if you can break through this, you can see some really powerful moves, right? And if you wanted to get really technical about it, which I'm not going to, because as you guys know, my technical skills are not nearly as good as other people's. There's channels, there's Fibonacci's, there's lots of different ways to gauge that. But that's really what we're looking for. At least that's what I'm looking at today. Can it get to this 7,900? If it breaks 8,000, as always, there's going to be a sell wall and it's going to blast through. So exciting stuff in the Bitcoin markets right now. Very, very exciting. So cool. Should I move this chat window, guys? Let me know. Yeah, I should move the chat window. Okay, I'm going to move this out. Growing pains, guys. Just figuring this out. So I'll bring this back at some point so you guys can see it. Now we're good to go. Hopefully that's not crowding it, making sure that you guys could see it. It's all about you guys, as always. Cool. And if there's anything else as I'm doing this that you guys think would be better for your viewing experience, just let me know, because, I've been on a couple live streams, and if there's ever anything that you would prefer me formatting or whatever, just let me know, and I'll hook it up. But we'll constantly try to make these better. So that's Bitcoin, right? That's what we're looking at. Nothing crazy. I think like I said, the steepness of this is a little, concerning. But if it breaks 7,900, we're going to look at the sell walls, obviously on GDAX or on Gemini or whatever trading platform you use. If you don't use a trading platform, don't worry about it, to determine what sort of spike we would see. All right, so let's look over at Bittrex. We'll look at Binance a little bit, but I tend to focus on Bittrex a little bit more because of the volume. But if Binance slowly starts to get more volume, which it looks like it's on pace to do, that will become the de facto. It's kind of the nature of the beast. You go where the volume is. So let's see here. Couple interesting pieces of news today. The first one is with Ripple. And I think what was really interesting with Ripple, so if you don't know, Ripple partnered with American Express and with Santander Bank, and it's a US, UK international transfer payment kind of test, I guess you should say. But they're really just slowly rolling out this idea of using blockchain. They're going to do it in a test bed, but the progress is important. And so we'll see how this rolls out. And the market responded, obviously, there was a lot of really good, it was positively received in the news, but there's a huge sell-off. And a reason why, I think there's two reasons why there's a big sell-off. One, it is almost impossible for an altcoin to get really good news and for it to be a sustainable pump when Bitcoin is doing this. There's nothing that can compete with that for a long-term breaking news type of situation. So I think that's one thing to keep in mind. Two is that while this is really good news, it's the kind of thing where it doesn't necessarily prove more transactions yet. It proves that they're taking the first step towards it. But if American Express came out and said, by using this, we're going to be doing 9 million transactions a day, and we're not going to use fiat, SWIFT, that type of settlement technology, that's the kind of thing that would make this go straight up, and it would sustain it. I also think it's kind of like a third emotional side, is that there's a lot of people that just want to dump their Ripple. They're emotionally over it. Myself, remember, 2 weeks ago, I tweeted about how, I don't get why people would ever use Ripple. Why wouldn't they just build it themselves? And I had an emotional bias about it. I still, unfortunately, I still kind of do. But this, to me, the one thing I'm learning from this is who cares what I think or how I feel about a certain coin? It's the market. And the more I see stuff like this happening, it forces me to put myself in the shoes of somebody who's not in this space, who's not checking Twitter, who's not going on Reddit or whatever it may be. Like even at meetups, even events and stuff that you go to, people have their opinions already formed. So I think that that's one of the biggest takeaways I've gotten from this, but very interesting, very exciting. I'm certainly interested. It's potentially proving me wrong about companies and banks are just going to try to build their own, unless they're just using it as a proof of concept, but who knows? We will see. Let's see who else is on here. Let's see. We got some people from India. Cool. Very cool. Let's see what else we got here. Wow, we got a lot of people. Cool. So we got that. Second thing that I saw that's been popping in, a bunch of you guys actually have been posting about this, and I saw some of them in the YouTube comments yesterday, I believe, but LISK has made a big move. Now, there's no singular wrap up. And if you're ever wondering like what's driving the news, the first place you always want to go is to the Twitter page of the official coin. That's typically the best place to go. It's going to have the most official and the breaking news. So LISK, it looks like they released a lot of really great stuff, right? I think they're doing a conference. I think they have a new SDK that they're releasing. Obviously, they're doing the rebranding, which we've been talking about for a couple of weeks, maybe months now. And I would say most importantly, it's a solid product. I don't own any LISK. I know a lot of people who do really love LISK, and in many ways, it is a not competitor, but an alternative to Ethereum. So if anything was going to compete with Ethereum, there's a handful. Like there's EOS, there's LISK, there's Qtum. I mean, not Qtum, I'm sorry. Ubiq, which is kind of on the Ethereum blockchain, but it can do things like that. So it's interesting to watch this thing grow because there's a lot of people that really believe in it, that really like it. It's also got the track record where it's big enough that it can handle good news over and over. People really like the team. So there wasn't a singular event as far as I could tell, but looks like LISK is doing well. I'm gonna look into this more. Hopefully they get a new logo. What the heck is this thing? It's like a fantasy game or something. But so it goes. All right, let's answer a few questions, guys. Mike Novogratz invested in Funfair. Yeah, so Funfair, if you guys don't know, that's a blockchain casino game. I should say, not casino game. It's a casino platform. And let me pull this up. I'm pretty sure it's trading right here. You guys should check it out. I personally, if you're new to the channel, I personally have not invested in any casino-based blockchain techs. And the only reason why is because I built a lot of mobile apps, like iPhone apps. And I built a bunch in the real money gambling space. So in the US or in most countries, you can't bet real money in an app, right? Online poker, it's illegal in many places, unless you're in Costa Rica or international waters. In the UK, it is legal. When I tried to build that business through Facebook advertising, through organic traffic, all that, it was incredibly difficult from the marketing and customer acquisition standpoint. It's so competitive and so expensive. More importantly, that is a very institutional industry, meaning there are some very powerful people that do not want people coming in and disrupting that space. And they will do a lot to make sure that you do not mess with their profits. Blockchain is a little bit different because there's similar to how, Amex is showing that instead of building their own, they're going to find somebody else. That may happen in casino. I could eat my words on this. Well, that's the only reason I haven't yet, is because as standalone companies, it's very difficult to win in casino. Now, if I find out that these companies are licensing blockchain tech or selling their tech to Caesars or whoever, that's interesting to me. I have not seen that yet. May look into that, but that's the way I look at the casino side of this. It is just a cutthroat and ruthless business. That being said, if you win on it, man, that money is crazy. It's like $500 lifetime value customer. It's insane. All right, cool. Last piece. Let's see here. Last piece of news that I saw that I thought was pretty cool is Brave browser. So Brave's basic attention token. So you get the Brave browser and the token that supports the business itself is what do you call it? Sorry, brain just totally spaced right there. The basic attention token. So if you pull this up, let's go and pull this up. That basic attention token. Seeing a little bit of over the last month or so, it's been having a rough time because they've just been hit hard. This is an incredibly difficult business to get into. Browsers, like you're competing with Google and Mozilla and Safari, but they're starting to make inroads, and they're doing it the David and Goliath way, where instead of trying to do mass adoption the way Microsoft tried to do it, they're going the other way, where they're trying to find the people that power a lot of the users on browsers and just doing total guerrilla warfare, specifically by allowing influencers and YouTubers to monetize, knowing that monetization is a huge pain point for many YouTubers through things like AdSense, right? Through algorithmic changes. So this is a really, I think it's a clever way for them to get a lot of uses and a lot of interesting people using it. I don't own any basic attention token. I do like Brave browser. I've used it a few times, but this is a huge industry. And obviously the guy who started Mozilla, right, Firefox, he's one of the founders of Brave. So that's one inroad for sure. But this is cool. I'm glad to see them doing this. I know that I think they only did like 35 million on their ICO, which, I mean, that's a lot of money. But when you're to hire the team to be able to do something like this, I think you need a lot more money. So I think they almost underraised, but they were early. So you never know. One to watch for sure, but that's a few pieces of news that I thought were interesting. All right, let's see here. What other questions do you guys have that I can help you with? Feel free to just drop a question in the chat box. We'll pull up Bitcoin as Bitcoin just continues to look at this thing go. Oh my gosh. It's just like, I mean, it's making power moves as it does. It makes you wonder. Someone told me yesterday that Coinbase signed up 300,000 people yesterday or 2 days ago. That is crazy. One thing to keep in mind, if that is true, I have not verified that. The number of people that sign up and the number of people that actually buy Bitcoin there's a huge drop off. So that's one thing to keep in mind, but realize that one of the reasons why I'm very bullish on Bitcoin, especially for the next year, is that no matter what is thrown at Bitcoin, the amount of demand and new people that are coming in, institutional and retail being Coinbase users, is so big that it will always exceed any sort of fear that happens. So anytime, even if there is a drop, it comes back just as fast as things get exponential. And that's really what makes things parabolic, right? Is that the demand gets so big that nothing can stop the demand. That's when it starts to get pretty crazy. Let's see here. What caused the Civic hyperbolic today? I don't know. I haven't checked Civic. Let's see what's going on with Civic over here. Look. I don't know what. Let's see. CVC. Why is that not coming up? I don't know why that's not showing up. It's usually one of the top ones, but I'll check that out. That's interesting. One thing related to Civic, obviously I'm biased because I own Civic. Here it is. Oh, here we go. I don't think that there's any particular news unless I'm missing something. That looks like it's pretty short term. So there's not a whole lot to be said, especially when there's more sell volume than buy volume. That means that this is disproportionately buy. And this is more of a combination of buying and selling. So this is just people buying, this is people buying and selling. Usually this is what a very short-term pump looks like. One thing about Civic, but I would encourage a lot of people to start thinking this way. And this is a much bigger idea that I'm thinking about that I think is going to be a big blog post, is how transaction count relates to pricing and the future price of a particular coin. Meaning, if you start looking, there's a Business Insider article about this that I'll link up. If you look at all these coins and you start to think about that their value is actually built on how many transactions that particular blockchain is running any single day, you start to really look at different coins and you start to think about not only what their potential could be, but how it's going to happen. That's a very, very simple way to start to look at the market differently, but that's what I'm super, super interested in. I think that is going to be a very big piece of being able to not necessarily predict, but have a good sense of which companies are going to have an increase in price down the road. So I would encourage everybody, look at your portfolio and ask yourself, how could the transaction count on this particular coin go way up? If you own OMG, right? I own some OMG. One way that could happen is if, or McDonald's, obviously, that's one reason, but a huge bank in Southeast Asia, they could say, we're using this. This is going to be a settlement layer on OMG or the OMG blockchain. We're going to use the tokens. The transaction count would skyrocket. And list out all the different ways that it could happen and how big could it be. And that's why I like things like Civic, is because as guys like Vinny Lingham, as he goes out and does biz dev, that is what he's thinking about. How can I integrate with partners that would drive massive transaction volume on the blockchain itself? So that's something I'm going to keep thinking about. I'm going to work that idea out a little bit more, but that's the lens that I'm looking through a lot of these transactions are. Rawaz, B3 coin in their masternode. B3 coin is, I don't know enough about it other than it's pretty small and market cap wise, and the returns are disproportionately big. Meaning, as it gets big enough for it to be a liquid asset, the relative returns, the relevant benefit of owning it is going to drop considerably. That's kind of true with all small cap coins. I'm talking like small cap stuff, Cryptopia type coins, some on Bittrex, but stuff that's just so small that relative movements would just, I went up 100% today. It's because it went up because 2 people bought more coins, right? I don't really mess with those coins because to me, whenever you have an illiquid situation, you have a very unnatural price. So while B3 could end up doing really well, I think that you're going to see a big change in the way that those economics work as it becomes a liquid market. Now, if you're an early holder and it ends up being an awesome coin, awesome. And I hope that happens. But it's not something I would necessarily buy for no other reason than that, because the liquidity of the market itself. All right, let's see here. What's your standpoint on Utrust? Utrust is interesting. So for anyone, I believe Utrust, correct me if I'm wrong, Utrust is the lending, right? It's the one with that's Trust Coin. Is that the same thing? This one with like Vitalik is the advisor. If that's not it, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's it. But either way, I'll talk about Trust Coin. If that's not it, I'm not going to talk about that because I don't have exactly that. Factom I like so much more than I read about getting. So Factom is a great coin. Factom is a similar platform as Civic, identity focused. Lots of people choose one or the other. The reason why Factom has been around for a while, and they've obviously had some. They had some early success. They've had a harder time getting moving. They do have a great team. They have a great product. This may be a bias. In fact, it probably is a bias because of my background and also the fact that I'm in Silicon Valley. But I typically bet on founders more than products. And whether or not you necessarily like Vinny Lingham or not, or agree with him, there is no question that that guy is out every single day closing new deals for civic partnership deals. And in emerging markets like this, often the people that are first to lock in the deal flow end up getting early wins that can snowball faster. It doesn't necessarily they're gonna win big, the same way that AOL won first, but Facebook won big. That's really what I try to bet on. That's why I like Civic the most out of the identity platforms. If I have a good reason to change it, I will. But for now, Jeffrey asks, does today's Ripple news change your stance on Stellar Lumens? No. In fact, the more I research Stellar Lumens, the more I've spent the last probably 2 days like really diving into Stellar Lumens. I really like it, and obviously I own it. So, if you go buy it, I do own that coin. But they're going after a very unique market, and one piece of their mission statement that I find really interesting, which is really unsexy, is the low bandwidth move. Meaning, one thing that a lot of people forget is that when you go to places, like I did a couple of trips where I went to Sri Lanka, the Maldives, to Africa, even to Brazil to a certain extent, but definitely in Asia and like between the Middle East and Asia, that kind of area. The bandwidth is a huge issue. And we all take for granted things like wireless or having cell service or 3G or 4G or LTE, whatever. But a huge majority of people do not have that. And that's a massive market. And I think Stellar Lumens is going after not only a settlement layer for banks, which is what we're seeing with places like Singapore. They're building it out with Hyperledger, with IBM. They're doing a lot of really amazing stuff with the tech. But as a pure currency replacement, as a B2C product, the ability to work with low latency, with low bandwidth, and still be able to transact fast and cheap is a very, very big deal in the emerging markets side. So to me, that is a very interesting angle, and it's also a very interesting mission statement. The other reason I like Stellar Lumens so much, one, I really like investing in companies that I think are doing a really good thing. And I think that what Stellar is doing is a good thing. So that's a bonus. I'm still a profit maximalist at heart, but if I can invest in something I like, I'm going to do it. And they also, locally speaking, they have a killer advisor team. And one of their first investors was Stripe, right? It was Patrick, the founder of Stripe. I can't remember his last name. But they put in what is now worth, I believe, $60 million worth of Stellar. Stripe is one of the fastest growing payment processors in the world, definitely in America. They're probably going to be the biggest at some point when all these authorized.net, all these painfully horrible merchant processors get shut down. And if Stripe is integrated with Stellar, the way that they integrated with Satoshi Pay, which happened this week, that is an incredible partnership. That would be unbelievable. That would be the equivalent of banking is this big one, retail payment processing is the other big one, and to hook into that platform. So for those reasons, I'm super bullish on it. I also think a guy, what was his name, Jeb, the founder, is a super smart dude from the Ripple team. So that's, I don't want to sound like I'm just like a puff piece about it, but I do like it. What I don't like about it necessarily is the supply is huge. So they are heavily reliant on transactions to drive the price as opposed to supply and demand. Meaning it's hard to be a holder and expect it to go up. It's going to go up purely based on how much people use that coin, which some people like that. Some people do not like that. But that can be a con. That's why having, whatever they're up to, like however many billions, 5 or 6 billion, more than that. Like however many billion the supply is. So cool. Go visit Stellar HQ and do a video. I want to. I sent an email. I got to do another email. I think they're doing a meetup tonight, actually, which is ironic, right? It's like they're doing a meetup tonight here. They're doing a meetup, whatever, in Singapore, real time. I think one thing you guys are going to notice, I think what we're seeing with this new news is to keep an eye on as it is November 16th, this was supposed to be the hard fork date. And I think a lot of people, a lot of companies were waiting for this day to release news because they just wanted the dust to settle. So I wouldn't be surprised if today and tomorrow you see a lot of news about a lot of coins coming out, a lot of different coins having news, because that's what they planned, however many weeks ago as they put that together. Wow, look at this. The 1 day candle having the highest close ever. That is interesting. Oh man, are we? Nope, not quite there. This is getting really interesting. That's we're up to 76.90. You can see there's another big surge here. Big candle. I love it. It's going great. Let's see here. Mamotaro asks, what are people's opinions on Gollum? Well, Gollum, as many of you know, was one of the biggest, a trade where I was like, all right, I'm going to go buy a bunch of Gollum, and it immediately just went down. Luckily, it had a second surge with the OMG rumors where it popped way back up and I was able to get my investment back. But man, that was like, talk about starting on the wrong foot. But lesson learned. I think Gollum's got something interesting as a product. It's almost too big for what they're trying to do. And I think I talked to a few people that were at the OMG Gollum event. Right? I think it was in Berlin like a month ago, give or take, a month or two. And one word that kept coming up was unprofessional. And I don't know these guys. I can't speak to this. So this is hearsay for all I know. But it seems like they've got this amazing vision. They have a product that could definitely make it happen, but they may not be up to the challenge, as can be seen by missed deadlines, by, nothing's really come out on time. It's been a total wow. In a year from now, that could be a completely different story. A year from now, Gollum could be running the world supercomputer. I don't know. But after that OMG thing, I got back my initial investment. I still have a bunch of Gollum, but it's really in my kind of, oh yeah, I forgot about that kind of pile. So that's my personal thing. Let's see here. Do I think OMG will be a good long-term investment? I do. I think OMG was I think that timing is a huge deal in crypto in 2017. And I think that OMG experienced an enormous amount of success early, pardon me, and they rode a big wave, and they had a lot of things going for them to paint the right story. Sorry, guys. I don't know why I'm sorry. I don't know why my throat's getting all weird out. But OMG, they just had everything happen at the right time in the right way. The story was perfect. The Vitalik sticker thing was perfect. They have a great product. And they were one of the first new companies that did it right. They invested a lot into their website. They made it look really good. So they achieved huge success early on. But I think they're kind of on the opposite, not on the opposite, but there's when you look at something like Civic and you look at something like OMG, Civic has the biz dev, the partnerships. They have that on absolute lockdown. They can't get in. It's a complete fire hose of new business, but they don't have the team and the product yet, as Vinny told on the podcast. Over here on OMG side, they have the product. They have an amazing product. It does what it's supposed to do, but they haven't locked down the huge deals. They haven't integrated in a huge way yet. And so there's going to be that sort of, not debate, but a discovery of which one of those business models works. And OMG is in a very good position. They have really good tech, really good product. What they need to do is get somebody, just a relentless biz dev guy or girl, anyone. If they get that, it could be huge. They do have a first mover advantage in the Southeast Asian banking market, but it's business. It's in crypto. It's developers. It's ideas. It's how does the product. In the real world, it's business. The product is one piece of a company. So as long as OMG knows that and they realize what their biggest needs are, it could work out very well. Let's switch this over to something a little bit more exciting. Let's switch over to the 5 hour. See this resistance that pops up right here. All right, here you go. Thomas, Zcoin is in great shape. About to be listed on Binance and Znodes. Sir Cosery is so positive. Yeah, I'm obviously you guys know I'm a Zcoin fan. I've talked to their team. I remember if you guys previous video, one thing I recommended, and I would continue to recommend you, especially we have an international crowd. I know a lot of you guys may not be in San Francisco in offices. You can't just walk down the street and meet up with some of these guys. If you email a lot of these companies and just say, hey, how can I help you out? What can I do for you? And then volunteer some ideas. Hey, can I write some blog posts for you? Can I help you with your social media? I mean, whatever. You will see a lot of companies very, very receptive. And when you build those relationships, you can get really good insights into the companies. I'm not saying you're going to get like any sort of insider info or whatever it may be. Hopefully you do. I don't know. But you just start to see the vision of the company and you become more invested as an investor. That's how you create those strong hands. That's why you hold on to it and you look at the dips as buying opportunities and not liquidation situations. So that's been my experience with Zcoin, among other coins, that just email people, ask them how you can help them out, especially if it's a coin that you believe in or you want to be a part of or whatever it may be. Let's see here. Can Trezor hardware wallet accept any currency? No, it can accept. I mean, they have a list, but the actual Trezor wallet is like Bitcoin, Bitcoin Cash, Ethereum Class, Litecoin, a few others. I don't know why I'm blanking on them, but it can integrate into my Ethereum wallet, which can handle Ethereum obviously and all the ERC20 tokens, which is a good chunk of the coins out there. But if you ever wanted to know what wallets are accepted, I always recommend just Google the name of the coin plus the word wallet. You'll find it often on their websites. Let me scroll this over here. Let me move this. There we go. Cool. Let me see here. Gil's loving BQX. Just posting like crazy, man. I love it. Rom asks about Chainlink. Chainlink, interesting company. I own some Chainlink. They're actually down the street here. I gotta hit those guys up. Did a little bit of research on them. Small team, and they're just trying to grow. They're trying to hire people. They need some help with the marketing, but they do have a very interesting idea, especially as these banks and these companies start to come, where they really create a turnkey system for people to integrate into the blockchain companies. Right? Their pitch, their story is, hey, if you have an API, you can use the blockchain. So they take an API. If you don't know what an API is a technology that it's a language that allows one piece of software or one system to talk to another system that aren't written the same way. It can translate between those two through a data feed. So if a company has a data feed coming out of it, Chainlink can turn that data feed and allow them to use things like smart contracts or blockchain related tech. So they have a great product from what I can see. They have a great advisory team, which really just means they have a good connections into biz dev. I think that from what I can tell from the outside, it looks like they may need someone to just go to American Express and just close it, Visa, whoever, and just get those contracts. I don't know that for sure. That's just my 10,000 foot view from it. see here. Fuzzy. Carter, what are you on? What are your long-term holdings, if I may ask? Sure. Honestly, I don't have the whole list off the top of my head, but I would say that the biggest holding is obviously Bitcoin, Ethereum, like Bitcoin, like BTC, Ethereum, and Monero. I have a bunch of Litecoin that I bought early on that I just hold on to. And I would also say none of this is necessarily an endorsement. A lot of this is just because I bought it early, and it's a great hedge. In that sense, it's also, there's like pretty serious tax implications if you sell it off with those gains. So those are probably like my big coins, top 10 big coins. I have Zcoin is a big one that I'm going to hold long term. I would say I'm going to hold Zcoin medium long term. I definitely want to see how the master nodes go. I'm going to set up a bunch of master nodes accordingly. And what I like what they're doing is they're trying to get into shops in Indonesia and Thailand and all that. They're trying to get transactions. Let's see, OMG, I own some Civic, not as much Civic. It's good. I mean, the reason I'm blanking is because I'm just trying to visualize my account right now. Yeah, I don't know. Like the way I look at it really is like there's long-term holdings, which is the big ones, and then there's a stack of Bitcoin. And when I see an opportunity, whether it be a short-term one, like there's a technical trade I can do, or whether it's a medium-term one, let's say 1 to 3 months or 4 months, I take that stack of Bitcoin and I deploy it against the trade. And as it goes up, I remove my initial investment to get the stack back, and then I make a decision on, do I leave the free coins in that particular altcoin, or do I get it back in Bitcoin? And so because of that, you have like 30 coins left over from all these scalp trades. And that's why I'm trying to prioritize them in my own head. But I mean, exactly like I write in my newsletter, I recommend people buy the bigger coins for the long-term holds, because the chances of those coins surviving are the highest. And that's the first game you got to win, is the survival of, you got to be around in 2 years for it to even be a long-term hold. And the top ones typically are the best way to do it. Everything else I look at as a trader, and I'm not even like I'm definitely not a pro trader, but this whole video, the whole coin mastery thing started as a way to document how do I get the most out of crypto. And I've found that split is as good as I can do for my particular skill sets. Let's see here. Here we go. 77.49, guys. We're getting close, as you guys can see. Let's do a 15-minute. That might be a little easier to look at. But man, this thing is just, look at that volume. Market wants it. Pretty crazy. Victor asked, do you think decentralized exchanges like barter decks will become the new Bitrexes of the future? I have a unique theory on the future of exchanges, and this is one of the pieces of the puzzle that I think requires a blog post. To answer your question, I think there will definitely be a market for decentralized exchanges. I think that there's no question about that. Over the long term, the ability to spin up your own trading OTC situation is going to be a big deal. Things like Radar Relay, ZRX, barter decks, or any of them will be a big deal. But I think things like Bittrex and even Coinbase are going to be... I don't think the centralized exchange thing is going to go away. I think it's just going to be overhauled. And this is not a popular opinion. So please don't get mad about what I'm about to say. But I think that right now you take fiat, and if you're in the United States, for example, you can go to a handful of exchanges. You can go to Coinbase or GDAX. You can go to Gemini. You can go to Kraken, and maybe a few others, but let's just say those are the three big ones. Once you go in there, you take fiat, you can only buy Bitcoin, Ethereum, maybe Litecoin. But there's not a whole lot you can buy with US dollars, like fiat. You can't go straight into an altcoin. But that has to change. Sorry, there's like some noise around here. That has to change. And so I think that there's going to be some sort of intermediary, which most likely will be a government-issued cryptocurrency, where instead of going from fiat to Bitcoin into altcoins, it's going to be crypto. It's going to be fiat into government crypto into any coin, which starts to look like what a stock or equities platform looks like. It's the same process of if you went on E-Trade and you had $1,000 and you wanted to buy some stocks. It's crazy to be like, well, oh, you got to buy all Apple first and then you can trade Apple for any stock you want. I think that's going to go away, but there has to be some sort of intermediary, which unfortunately or fortunately, however you want to look at it, will probably be a government currency. I think that you're going to see this with China. I think that's exactly how they're going to roll it out. And I think you're going to see a massive democratization of the crypto markets. I do not think that you're going to see the sort of dominance we see right now. And I think that you're just going to see a lot more people that can buy something like, Zcash without having to buy Bitcoin or Ethereum first. And that is going to change the economics of the entire market in a huge way. I think we're a long way off. I think we got like a year, maybe 2 years. So there's nothing to worry about right now. But I don't think that it's ever going to get rid of centralized exchanges and just go decentralized. I think that the decentralized will emerge in certain OTC situations. I think the centralized exchanges will just they'll have an intermediary layer that is through a government currency that is the equivalent of something like a US tethered dollar. It won't be Tether for obvious reasons, but it will be something similar to that allows for, you can buy anything you want and it will be trackable. It's regulatory and trackable. Bad news for some people, great news for other people, because now there's a government custodian. There is the ability for huge money to come in and have some level of insurance, like there may be an FDIC for that crypto. That makes it interesting. So I think that's like a very short way of doing it. Lemuel from Brazil, what's up? All right. Ricardas from Lithuania. Welcome, guys. Let's see here. What do you think of 10X? I don't know. I think that there's just like whenever I see a company that is like its future depends on mass adoption, like business to consumer, B2C. It relies on mass adoption for the massive wins. I look at that as a marketer and see, looking at a mountain. And I think that that's the position of the 10X is in. I do think it can be a superior product than a Visa card, or it's obviously different than a Visa card or a debit card. I just think that it's very hard to convince my aunt and uncle that they should not use a MasterCard. They should use a 10X card because insert blank. And that blank needs to be a problem that is so painful that people are willing to change their entire buying behavior. That's very, very, very hard to do. It's a lot better, in my opinion, or a lot easier to go after the pain points, to try to dethrone the middlemen, because then you'll have to knock down 10 companies to really win, or whatever it may be. Mario from Ecuador. What's up, Mario? Maxi, are you getting in on the Wabi ICO? I am not. I actually have not been looking at ICOs recently for no other reason than I just have not had time. And I've been focusing a lot on existing coins who are trying to get partnerships. That's really where my focus has been. I think in 2018, you're going to see a lot more of these established coins that get hooked into the mainstream. That's the place that I want to focus. That's where I tend to see the best opportunities and execute on them, because that's macro meeting crypto. That's just what I'm historically been good at. Tim from Slovenia, what's going on? All right, let's see here. What do you think of? Cool. Well, let's see here. Chad, what's up, Chad? Good to see you here. What's Steam Outlook? It's getting listed on CoinRail, Thailand Exchange at the end of the month. Thoughts? My thoughts on Steam are, I think that they're onto something. With the tokenizing a social network that is going to be a huge thing. Going up against existing social networks is an enormous thing. It's an enormous what do you call it? Undertaking. I think the only way I would go in big on Steam is if they switched from being a content-focused site, which is a growth hack. Like, they're doing that because that's how growth happens. They went from that and turned it into more of a Reddit, because the future of online networks is not around the content, it's around the people. And right now, Steam is 80% about the article, 20% about the comments. And they need to flip that in some way. If they can successfully do that, then it gets interesting, right? Like, so something like InvestFeed. I'm not on InvestFeed. I've seen it. Looks interesting. Is it going to do well? I have no idea. But they at least are trying to go after the commentary first. They're going after the people. Not going after it. That's the wrong way to say it. But they're catering to the people before the content. That is interesting to me more than catering to content first. So I like it. I think the DTube was kind of a bomb. If that gets improved, because I had to re-encode my videos and I had to do all this work, and so I was just like, $5. Like, yeah, right, I'm not doing this. So the tech isn't there yet, because they got to compete with YouTube and Vimeo and everyone else. But it's interesting. If you're looking to make some money in crypto, I think Steam, you can definitely, if you want to write a ton of articles and make a lot of content, good way to make a little quick money. What is the Steam account of Coin Mastery? Man, I think it's like Coin Mastery CT. I don't even know. I haven't been on Steam in like a month, but yeah, go check it out. I just post the daily content there. I don't write a whole lot of unique stuff. So, but yeah, go upvote it to probably give me couple bucks. Ripple American Express, good for Ripple, but will XRP be used? Any comments on the whole pump from? I think that Ripple will be used. I think that this is a very small very small operation where they're going to see if this works. If it does work, it's a big deal. One thing to remember, though, in banking, as it relates to blockchain, this is a really important point that some people often forget. One of the promises of blockchain is that it's got very cheap transaction fees, especially if you're if you're sending any amount of money. So if you send $1 versus you send $50,000, the transaction fees are relatively similar, which makes it very appealing, so to speak, and for other reasons. But what really makes something like Ripple or Stellar or any of these coins, what's really going to drive the price through the roof is if you get a billion transactions happening, or 500 million, or a million, or whatever. The size of the transactions is less important than the number of transactions. So while banking is a big deal, this is a huge deal that this is happening. What you really care about, or what we really care about as it relates to the price of any crypto, is how many transactions this could lead to. So if they're doing something that is like, well, we're going to really take on the high net worth individuals so that we can move $40 million a day through 10 accounts. That's cool, but that doesn't help Ripple. That helps the people who have the $40 million. It saves them money and it caters to their clients. What you want, or what we want as a Ripple or Stellar or whatever owner, is you want them to say, we're going to allow 40 million of our clients use this for their daily transactions. That will drive the price of Ripple way higher because it's just a blockchain they're using. They're not buying Ripple. And so that's an important piece to keep in mind. That's why you don't see sustainable prices increases off of this kind of news, because they're not clear about that. And that is one of the nuances that a lot of people miss as they relate it to price action into news. You got to connect the dots of, does this increase the transaction number, not necessarily the amount being used. Now, one exception to that would be something like Monero. You've seen Monero go up 20, 30% in the last 2 weeks, arguably because of the whole situation over in Saudi Arabia, where there's like all this money that has been quarantined or seized. They don't necessarily need to move a lot of money. They need to store a lot of money anonymously. If they use something like Monero, they would actually have to buy up the supply of Monero. That would absolutely increase the price of, just based on supply and demand. So there's different ways to look at it. But in this case in particular, you're looking at transaction number, not necessarily transaction size or amount. So I hope that helps. But that's an important caveat. All right, let's see here. District 0x thoughts, DNT. Love the team. Like what they're trying to do. Don't love marketplaces as a business model as of right now. The reason why is because it's really hard to become like a marketplace of marketplaces. You need so much traffic and you need such a unique selling proposition. Obviously, the DNT token is one way they're going to do it, but that's a hard one for me to get behind. That doesn't mean it's a deal breaker. They have Open Bazaar. They have all these, the hire freelancer. They have a bunch of stuff in the works. They have a great team. They have a good thing going. But the question is, will people like you and me start going to that kind of marketplace, or are we going to stay on Facebook and Amazon and something else to get 95% of what we need anyway? For now, I think the answer is yes. At some point, the kings will fall. Amazon, Facebook will be replaced by something else, maybe something like a WeChat, Alibaba, whatever. But that's the way I look at it. So, right, I mean, all my DNT is at this point free shares anyway, so I'm not too hung up on it. I won't buy any more anytime soon. Could do well, but I don't love that niche. It's personally as an investor. That's my 2 cents. Do I surf in San Fran? I do not surf in San Francisco. I used to live in Maine, and I actually surfed a lot in Maine. Going to Hawaii, I go to Hawaii every year. So hopefully I found a lot of emails from people who live in Hawaii, and it's hard to get Bitcoin in Hawaii. So I think it's hard to get a community together. Going there in February, I think, January, February. So hopefully we can organize some sort of meetup, because get people more access to just like knowledge and people talking about crypto. I think that'd be cool. Let's see here. Cool. Let's see here. Mike, or Frank from Toronto, watching in sunny Jamaica. Yeah, man. Do you think anything about DCT? If so, what do you think? I love your videos. I don't know. I don't really know much. What is DCT? Let me check this out. Is it on Bittrex? Decent. I'll be perfectly honest with you. I do not know enough about Decent to give you any good advice. So I'm probably the wrong person to ask. I'll go check it out. But sorry to say, yeah. Let's see here. Are you doing this video in an office? Sure am. Got my own little aquarium here. It's great. I can't work from home. I did that for a few years, and it's like I just go crazy. So I got my own office. All right, we'll do a couple more questions, then we'll wrap this up. Great to have you guys on the chat. This is super fun. And again, if there's anything that you guys would like to see in future live streams, always let me know. We can work some stuff out. Any thoughts on Trig? You know, Trig, I don't have a lot of thoughts on that. What I will say is that it was clear that partnerships led to massive price swings with Trig, for a variety of reasons. What is interesting about Trig is I think that whenever you have a coin that represents something that people have a deep-seated belief about, in this case guns and guns control, please don't comment about guns, I don't want to hear it. That causes people to hold or sell for reasons other than fundamentals, right? It might not be about facts. There's a element of, I want this to succeed, or screw these guys, or whatever. And I think that that's always really interesting to watch. I think that that's why you saw such huge spikes with all the news, is because it was something that people can relate to. As 2018 comes and the way that coins and research and competition and the supply of all the coins available changes, that psychology is going to change as well. But whenever you see something, as a human, anytime, like if I went and talked to somebody and I wanted to explain to them what Power Ledger was, the best way for me to explain it to them would be to explain it in the context of something that they care about. So they might not care about Power Ledger, but if I said, look, this is all about the solar revolution, this is all about the country of Australia, I'm pretty sure they're based in Australia, and it's about using this technology to really further that issue for you, that would be a much bigger reason why people would buy Power Ledger than if I showed them all the economics and the token size and the mining. Like this stuff, unless you care about it, is this influential. This stuff is this influential, especially for retail investors. I think that's the case with Trig as well. So they do have an interesting product. I mean, I don't want to take away from that. That is what it is. So let's see here. I'll do one more question, and then we'll rock it out. Let's see here. Trig increase. Let's see here. Thanks. So we learned derivatives. Trying to. All right. Cool. Well, I can't really. These questions are just flying in here. So I guess we'll just wrap that up. One thing that's always helpful, guys. I always like feedback. I don't care if it's, you want to tear me apart or if you want to tell me something you liked. But I always want to make these live streams better. So if there's anything you would like to see next time, other than me dressing up or something ridiculous, just let me know. Let me know on Twitter. Go on Twitter at Carter Thomas. If you like this video, hit the thumbs up button. That always helps. And I'll try and do these once a week. I think these are super cool. Next week might be tough because it's Thanksgiving and I got to travel across the country. But obviously, CoinMaster TV will always prevail. So with that, guys, I appreciate all of you taking the time, watching this, commenting, being a part of this. And on to the next. We'll keep an eye on this all-time high, and we'll keep rocking it out. Peace out, guys.